people fail to realize or to see the needs that exist in their marketplace and the pain points and problems that their potential clients and customers have.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Middleton Methods podcast. We have another special interview for you this week. I got my buddy here, Sam Bell. He is a Facebook marketing ads genius. Sam and I have known each other probably since I first got into this business over 12 years ago. We hang out in the same circles. We've been to a lot of the same conferences, trade shows. We're always bumping into each other. We have a very special treat with him today. Sam, why don't you introduce some of your, tell us how you got into this business and got into marketing. Because when I first met you was actually at Rogers Mastermind way back in like 2008, I think.
Yeah.
And at that time, I remember you telling me your secret weapon was Traffic Geyser, which we know has come and gone since then. But you've always been on like the cutting edge of the new, marketing or software or whatever is working. And it's obviously been working for you because that's all I've seen you do since we met each other. So tell us a little bit about your background in how you got into this business.
Yeah, man. So, well, first of all, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. Happy to share. So I'll give you the quick high level version. So around 2005, I got into real estate full time. I did a few deals, had some success, and wind up quitting my job and just started buying and selling houses. At the time, I was living in Atlanta, so we're doing a lot of rehabs, flips, and things like that. Fast forward a couple years, the market began to slow up a little bit. And a lot of the buyers who I was selling my properties to, they started to disappear. So I had to find a way to find other people who were interested in buying properties. So I was like, well, I had the idea. I was like, well, people here in Atlanta, they may not think, they may not feel as though that the market is good, but there are other people that will love to buy in this market because the properties are cheap, especially people on the West Coast or people out of the country, because I know there, that average house is like $500,000 versus here, they can get a house for $30,000, $50,000. So, and I had always been into the internet. I actually have an IT background. I actually used to be a network administrator for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And, in the IT industry, you do have a lot of downtime as long as things are working. So in my spare time, I would spend a lot of time researching, internet marketing, how you make money online. And I was very familiar with SEO. I participated in StomperNet like way back in the day. So I had some SEO skills. So, and this was, everything was still new at the time. YouTube had just came out. Again, this is like around 2006. So it occurred to me, well, maybe I can leverage this internet marketing stuff to help market and sell my properties. So I was probably like one of the first guys to actually upload their real estate deals and put them on YouTube. So I would actually go to my wholesale properties. I would videotape them, upload them to YouTube, and then I would optimize them to create and start doing lead generation for those to market and sell my properties. And I actually started getting leads and started actually being able to sell my houses using the internet. So fast forward a year later, I actually attended a conference down in New Orleans called the I think it was the virtual investing seminar. It was with Chris Daigle and Chris Chico, those guys, and I met a lot of the guys who are now like some of the biggest gurus, then. But through that relationship, I kind of share it with Chris Daigle what I was doing on the internet, and then the second event, he asked me to come back and share that information. He's like, well, that sounds pretty cool. Do you mind, coming maybe doing like a little 30-minute, talk or whatever? I'm like, all right, cool. So I put together this presentation for like 30 minutes. And I shared with everyone, and everyone's blown away. I thought this was common knowledge at the time, but I guess it really wasn't. So it just so happened there was a guy there by the name of Colin Andrews that was one of the co-founders of realestateinvestor.com, which was a social network for real estate investors at that time. And this is, again, like around 2007, 2008. And he was blown away. He's like, dude, this is awesome. He's like, we need to create a product. He's like, we need to take this and turn this into a product. So I was like, all right, great. So I partnered up with those guys. I was the content creator. I created all the training, and they basically went out and sold it. And we wound up selling, like, I think it was like $2.1 million of that product, and
Wow.
really transforming the real estate investing industry in terms of bringing them out of, the old school marketing age kind of into the digital age, and showing them how they can actually leverage Web 2.0 social media. So from that point on, I kind of got this reputation as the marketing guy. And then once that occurred, I went on to develop my own coaching programs, some of my own info products, and I started, running traffic to market and sell those info products. And around 2009, obviously the market had crashed. The market had already crashed, but there were still a few guys out there marketing and selling their info products. But 2009, there was this huge Google slap. And at the time, Facebook wasn't established as it is now in terms of having the advertising platform. It didn't exist. So Google was the 800-pound gorilla. That's where everyone got all their leads from. That's how they actually marketed and generated buyers and put people into their sales funnel. So once Google banned those guys, they had no lead source. They had no way to get traffic. At that time, I had started really delving deep into the Google Display Network, and at the time,
So the banners, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But everyone's always focused on search, but I really got really good at the Google Display Network. So I started doing some consulting with some of these guys that lost their accounts, and I was helping them either get their accounts reinstated, or we were getting them and setting them up with new accounts. And that's kind of how I started the agency side. So I actually enjoyed that aspect of it. I have a technical, analytical mind, so I really enjoy looking at the numbers, testing different things, and coming up with different strategies to find, to really dial in campaigns and begin doing lead generation. So kind of transitioned from consulting to starting the agency, and that's how I got into doing agency work and doing marketing. And since then, I've always been a student of marketing, not only understanding the analytical, technical side, but also the psychological side of of how to market, how to communicate with your prospects, how to identify and find those prospects, and then actually how to use multiple platforms. Fast forward a few years later, Facebook began to evolve. And obviously, once that platform began to evolve, we transitioned, and we also started leveraging the targeting on Facebook to run ad campaigns as well. So, so I've been on Facebook, since they launched their advertising platform, and we just become really, really familiar with it. And actually, it's transitioned now because Facebook has way better targeting than Google. So we transitioned from running primarily on Google to primarily on Facebook, and it's probably like an 80-20 balance now. We run 80% of our stuff on Facebook and around 20% of our stuff on Google. We still do GDN and YouTube and things like that. So that's kind of the quick and dirty of how.
How much do you think, so you've been online for 10, 12 years now. How much do you think you and your clients have spent on advertising? Just so people get an idea of the amount of experience you have from there.
Well, these weren't huge budgets, but I would probably say at least $15 to $20 million. All
right. So you've seen quite a few clicks and conversions and what works and what doesn't.
Yes.
Awesome. Back up a second. I want to talk about the fact that, you and I have a similar story in the beginning. We were starting at around the same time, and you had a different business, right? You were in real estate. You weren't the marketing guy then. And I also had a different business, but when I saw opportunity and I saw that there were other people other business owners who were struggling with something, we didn't, or like, Google slaps them instead of being like, throwing up your hands, you hustled and you problem solved. So could you speak to that for just a minute? Like, I think a lot of business owners do, they have those roadblocks, or, especially just starting out. I mean, that wasn't but a couple of years into your business that everything changed, right? And in the digital world, things are changing all the
all the
time.
time.
And that can be
Yeah.
discouraging to someone who's starting out. So could you just share a little bit of that insight and give our audience some encouragement or some hope for when they do come across those types of things? What was it in you that just said, "Hey, I'm gonna figure this out. I'm gonna get online. I'm gonna do my research."
Yeah, I mean, so I'm if people who know me, especially my family, will say that I'm very stubborn at times and bullheaded. And that being part of my personality, it's not, when that occurred, it looked at it like, okay, I can figure this out. So it was more of a challenge, than anything to overcome. And when that happened, there was a need that was created in the marketplace. And I think a lot of times people fail to realize or to see the needs that exist in their marketplace and the pain points and problems that their potential clients and customers have. So considering that, a lot of people's businesses were dependent upon Google, for them not to be able to utilize that platform, that really created a pain point and a problem in the marketplace. So it actually created an opportunity. In the book Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill always states there in every obstacle, there's a seed of equivalent opportunity or benefit that comes out of that.
Mhm.
And that's how I really looked at that. So for me, was just really understanding, okay, well, what do they want? What does Google want to see in order for us to be able to run compliantly? So back then it was very hard to get in contact with representatives and actually get somebody on the phone. But I managed to do that, just through persistence, to find out exactly what the needs were, and then to make those corrections and adjustments and provide them with what they wanted to see.
Mhm.
But at the same time, still using my understanding of marketing to still be able to not only run compliantly, but to also be able to get results for the clients at the same time. So it was just fundamentally understanding that there was a pain point that existed in the marketplace, and that there were people that were still running successfully. So it's just a matter of understanding what it is that they wanted and then providing that to them.
Got it. And you said also that the relationships that you met at those trade shows and stuff were key.
Yes.
How did you find those relationships? How did you cultivate those relationships that?
Attending events, a lot of people in this online space, they tend to believe that, I can just sit behind a computer and make $1 million. However, at the end of the day, you still have to realize you're connecting with people and
Mhm.
individuals, and you're still building and establishing relationships. And those relationships that you establish online can be strengthened when you actually meet people face to face. So some of my most profitable relationships in business have come from actually going to events and attending events and networking and connecting with people and being genuinely interested in people. One of my favorite books is How to Win Friends and Influence People. And one of the key things that that Dale Carnegie mentions in that book is to be genuinely interested in other people and not so much just talk about yourself. So when I would attend these events, I would intently listen to people and see what their needs were, see what challenges and problems they have. And you'll be surprised when you just listen. You'll begin to hear things, and you'll get different ideas. So that was really key. Going to those events, actively listening and really hearing what people's wants, needs, and desires were, and that allowed me to think and see how I might be able to help and add value to those people's lives first and foremost. Whether it just be business or even if it's just keeping a relationship and staying in contact, and so through doing so, I was able to build the relationships, because I think people genuinely appreciate when people take an interest in
Oh
them, and
yeah.
it's not all about me, what you can do for me.
Mhm.
So I've been able to foster relationships that I've had for well over a decade now, and still continue to have, that I can reach out to people, and I think that's very important. in business period to cultivate and foster those relationships. And if you only met someone online, if you know that there are certain industry events or, conferences and things like that, make it a point to get out to those events and those conferences and connect and meet with those people.
Awesome. Yes. Relationships are key. So let's talk about, I want to make sure our audience who's out there who maybe have spending a little bit on advertising or even those who, let's talk about the idea of social media is obviously a hot topic. And I know a lot of people in our audience do a lot of posting. They create a lot of content. They got the hashtags all figured out, and they are, they're doing a lot of organic advertising, I guess, right?
Sure.
They're putting a lot out there. They have a lot of content marketing strategies, but why would you ever pay for advertising?
It's a great question. And I think that people need to realize that there's two sides to social media, just like you said. So you have the organic side, engagement, and that's really based on, the level of engagement is based on the quality of their content that you put out. It's also based on some other outside factors that you really have no control over, as it relates to the platform, whether you're using Facebook, whether you're using Instagram to create that reach. The challenge with that, especially if you're just getting started, is that it takes time to build up that following. It takes time to build up the brand to where people, recognize you and will begin to follow you organically. So the flip side to that is to just pay for it, and you can really accelerate the time frame in which you can actually get results. So either you're going to pay for it in time, or you're going to pay for it in hard costs. And to me, time is the most valuable asset that anyone has. So it makes more sense to spend the money to get the results quicker, as opposed to just investing the time. Now, I still think you want to do that. You want to do those things simultaneously, still do all the organic stuff, build all that stuff up. That's fine and well, but then supercharge that by taking the time and spending the advertising. And here's the thing. A lot of people, they have this idea that you got to go out there and spend thousands of dollars. You really don't. Like, you can allocate a very small budget and get very substantial results, especially if you have good content that connects with the target audience. Now, yes, there are some things that you need to understand in terms of how to use the platform from a targeting standpoint, market to message match. So there are some fundamental marketing principles that you should understand, as well as understanding how to utilize the platform. But once you've kind of figure that out and you go through that learning curve, I mean, sky's the limit, because you literally have access to billions upon billions of people that you can reach, with the click of a button. So I would much rather pay for that. And the flip side to that is I can measure everything. So it's not like you're just throwing money down a black hole. It's not like traditional TV advertising or newspaper advertising. You can literally put up an ad and within 24 to 48 hours have hundreds, if not thousands of visitors to your websites. Okay. And you can actually then take that data, analyze it, and make very strategic decisions on what any adjustments you need to make, either to the content, the quality of the content, or the actual sales process that you have in place, as opposed to, waiting, and just doing the organic side. It could take months and months, for you to actually get results. And depending upon what your product or what your service is, especially if you sell a high ticket product or service, I'll spend $1,000 to get a $5,000 sale all day long.
Yeah, of course.
So it's a matter of looking at it from the perspective of you're not spending money, you're investing in data to find out what the people want. And then you're able to make very strategic decisions on how you put your content out. And it will help you get to the sale much faster.
Right. So you could put out 3 different messages or 3 different products even, and send the traffic to it, and within a short amount of time know which of the 3 messages or which of the 3 offers is going to be more likely to succeed based on what your clicks and conversions were, right?
Absolutely.
As
Absolutely.
opposed to organically just doing one and then a few months later trying the other and then sitting around and waiting. You can have that information in a very short amount of time.
Very true.
You said a small budget, so let's put some specifics behind it. What do you think a good small testing budget? And I know it's going to vary depending on the audience, but
Right.
what do you typically, when you have a brand new offer going out to an audience or a brand new message, what do you typically advise your clients to start with? And what are those numbers you're looking to measure? Is it clicks? Is it opt-ins? Is it sales?
That's a great question. So we have a very specific process that we use to evaluate what the budget is, and I believe that anyone that's going to begin running paid media should do some financial projections and create a financial model to establish very specific KPIs, which means key performance indicators, to identify what metrics they need to hit to get to break even. Because the first goal obviously is to get the break even. So what metrics do you need to hit in order to get the break even? So I reverse engineer the process, and I start with the offer and the price point. So your price point of your
Mhm.
offer is going to really dictate how much budget you allocate. So if you got a small price point, say like a $97, $197, then you're going to have a much smaller budget of what you can actually spend to get to a break even point. Versus if you have $1,000 or $5,000 offer, then you can actually have a much higher budget to get to a break even point. So that's the first thing. It's going to be dependent upon what is your price point of
Mhm.
the product or service that you're selling. And then based on that, then we kind of reverse engineer and kind of go through the process. All right. And then I have to look at, based on how many different steps there are in the sales process or in the sales funnel, because each step in the sales funnel is a conversion point. All right. And there's specific metrics that you're going to need to hit in each conversion point to get to a break even point. So, for example, if I have a $5,000 coaching package that I'm selling, okay, the way that I would evaluate that is, okay, well, what is the sales process that I'm going to use to sell a $5,000 coaching package? Well, generally we use a automated webinar funnel, okay, and there are generally really around 5 specific steps. So we have someone sees the ad, they click on the ad, they hit the webinar registration page. So that's kind of like the first major
Just a click.
conversion that I'm
Yeah.
looking at. When someone registers for the webinar, the second metric that I'm looking at is the attendance rate. Out of all the people who register, how many of those people actually attend the webinar, consume the content, and watch the webinar? The third conversion point that I'm looking at from that point is if I'm doing this, if I'm selling a $5,000 offer, more than likely I'm not doing a straight sell. I'm using an application close. So I want to know, what's my conversion from attendees to applicants? How many people attended? How many applications were generated? And then the next conversion metric that I'm looking at are from applications to actual calls, right? So when I actually pick up the phone and actually call those people, what's the show up rate there? And then lastly, the close rate from the people I talk to how many sales are generated. Okay. So I have a base, some base numbers that I know work based on a $5,000 price point. So for example, I know if I can get webinar registrants at $10 or below, then that's a good key indicator for it to be successful. If I can
Just
have
$10 to get them just to register
just to
for the
register,
webinar, not even necessarily show up.
not even to show up, just to register. So $10 to register for the webinar. Okay. And if I can get at least a 50% show rate, okay, on that webinar, then that means I'm paying, $20 per attendee, because $10 to
Mhm.
register, half of those people who register actually show up, $20 per attendee. So if in order for me to get 100 live attendees, okay, I'll take 20 times 100 is going to cost me $2,000 in ad spend. Okay. Now I'll be looking to get at least a 10% conversion rate from attendees to applicants. Okay, so a 10% conversion rate from attendees to applicants. So I got 100 people that attended. That means I should get at least 10 applications. And then from applicants to actual calls, I'll be looking at a minimum of at least an 80% show rate. So basically, out of those 10 people who actually filled out an application and booked a call, at least 88 of those people should actually show up on a call.
Right.
And then I'll be looking for at least a 20% close rate, which means I'll just sell about at least 2. All right. Even if I sell 1, though, at a $5,000 price point, that I'm still going to be in profitability because it only cost me $2,000 to acquire a $5,000 customer. And I'll do that all day.
I love it. I love it. One of the things I've learned over the years is, and I think, like you said earlier, when your clients in the past had couldn't advertise on Google anymore, there were still some people who were successfully doing it. The competition was still out there doing it. So you just, see what other people are doing, and reverse engineer that. So can we talk a little bit about maybe some methods that you have for researching your competitors? How do you find what's already working? How do you know what people are, maybe what your competitor is spending or what ads are performing?
Sure. So there are a lot of different, spy tools out there that you can use. There are a lot more spy tools for Google than there are for Facebook. But there are some competitive intelligence tools that you can leverage to see the type of ads that people are actively running, and you can actually go through those funnels. But one of the things that I do as it relates to Facebook is I like certain pages, okay, or I follow certain pages, or show specific interest in things, so that way I can actually see those ads. And then based on those ads that show up, you can actually view and see what is, how are they targeting you, okay? You can actually click the little drop down link inside of Facebook and inside the news feed, and then you can say, why am I seeing this ad? And then you can actually look at that information, and they'll tell you, okay, you're seeing this ad because they want to reach people who are interested in such and such, that are between these ages, or whatever the case may be. Then I can document that. And then what I'll do is I build a swipe file. I'll take a screenshot of the ad. And then if it's something that really intrigues me, I'll actually go through the funnel and I'll look at their funnel process for that. I also pay attention to the engagement on the ad too, because if you see an ad that has a lot of likes, comments, shares, and obviously it's an ad that they've been running for a while, or that they've spent a considerable amount of money, which means that the ad is probably working very, very well. So therefore, I want to see what it is that they're doing to make that ad work, to get those type of results for that. So Facebook, there are some competitive intelligence tools out there, but they seem to come and go all the time.
All right. So you don't invest too much in that. I didn't even know that you could see why am I seeing. I just clicked on one. It said, because of my age range and because I like Tony Robbins, I see this.
Yes.
That's
exactly.
Awesome.
So just kind of just being cognizant of the ads that are showing based on, the interest that I have. There are even some instances where you may have Facebook accounts that are in other demographics, for like a female, if you want to see, what's being targeted to females in a certain age range, right? So if you understand your market, you know who your target market is. You can do some competitive intelligence by actually having a profile on Facebook and seeing what ads are being shown to you.
That's cool. Now, how about the researching what a competitor's like message is? If you're a speaker, there's a lot of speakers out there to speak on a lot of topics. There's a lot of authors out there. If you're debating on, like what your message should be or what the title of your book should be, I know that you can launch a small Facebook ad and quickly see which message your audience is relating to more. How do you make those decisions? How do you run those tests based on what you're seeing the competition doing that's working?
So that's a great question. And I don't necessarily do that based on what the competition is doing. I do it more so based on what the market wants, because I'm more concerned about, not necessarily what the competitor is doing, but what is the need in the marketplace. That's more important to me, because the market is are the people that are actually going to go out there and buy. They're the ones that are going to take their credit card out, make the investment. So I actually will take the time and look at forums and question sites based on the market. So for example, if I was in the health and wellness niche, I would look at specific health and wellness forums and look at the conversations that people are having. Look at the questions that they're asked. Look at some of the topics that they post. Look at the ones that have a lot of different engagement, and people will tell you what the
What they
elements,
want, yeah.
what their challenges are, what they're looking for. So there's a lot of data that's already out there in the marketplace. Another good place though to also look is go to Amazon and look at some of the top books that people are actually buying. Look at the feedback. Okay, look what people have to say about the book, especially if they have a ton of reviews. You can look at the title of that book. So that's more of my approach to it, as opposed to
Throw more market research than it is competitive.
Competitive research.
Yeah,
Right.
I love
Now, what I will do after I've done my market research, I will find out who are the top people in the marketplace that are actually spending money on advertising, and then I will look at their marketing message and see how it relates to the wants and need of the market.
Okay. What do you think the biggest challenges facing advertisers are right now? Whether it's technology changing or attention.
It's attention.
Okay.
We're all.
Why is that even important?
Well, you got to understand, people. The average attention span is less than, I think, like 2 seconds. You got like 2 seconds to gain someone's attention online. So how do you engage them, right? How do you actually get someone to pay attention, to your ad? And it's really going to boil down to a couple of things. Your ad creative, obviously. Okay, so the images that you use or the video that you use, and then the message. Am I really speaking, directly to that individual? Here's the thing about technology. Technology evolves. The platforms evolve. We're going to see more stuff in virtual reality. We're going to see more stuff in augmented reality that's going to be occurring. But what doesn't change is the human psychology and how we operate and function. So I don't focus as much on the technology, although I am an early adopter when it comes to technology and the different platforms, but everything is still rooted in human psychology and human behavior. So I think it's more important to really understand how people think and how people operate, from an emotional, from a psychological standpoint, because regardless of the medium, if you understand that, you can craft marketing messages and just adjust the creative to fit the medium that you're marketing on. But the marketing message and how you connect with the people is still going to be the same, because we're not evolving as fast as the technology is.
Yeah. How do you get people's attention, or what tips do you have for? I mean, I know personally, I've always struggled with a new campaign taking this much information, and the product service may have this much value and benefit, but then when you have to get down to the ad level and just think, I need to give you have to strip so much out, and the message needs to be so short and sweet to get that attention. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs will struggle with that, because they're thinking, well, my product and service is for anybody, and it could work for this person and this person. But how do you get a specific message to catch attention? What tips do you have for that?
Yeah. So again, it goes to understanding your market and knowing what their pain points are and what resonates with them. Just from understanding marketing, people are more prone to respond to avoid pain than they are pleasure. Okay. Yeah. Now there are some markets, such as entrepreneurs, where we're more excited about the opportunity and the potential pleasure, but for the most part, more people want to avoid pain. So in understanding that, you want to craft messages to avoid to show them how they can avoid whatever that major pain is, and not only what that pain or that problem is, but the specific symptom that may be occurring to them, right? Mm-hmm. So for example, people may be in debt. Okay, so as opposed to saying, hey, here's how you can get out of debt. Well, yeah, we know that, but what's the symptom that's tied to being in debt? Stress, frustration, not overworked, right? So my message would be, are you tired of being overworked, burnt out, and stressed due to the burdens that come along with debt? There is a way that you can escape those challenges and live the life you deserve and become debt free faster than you may even realize. Here's how you can do that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of my approach. Now on Facebook, there are some guidelines because they don't want people to have a negative user experience. So you have to be cognizant of that as well. So if you can craft stories or create avatars to craft messages around and make it more social, then that works even better. I had a very interesting campaign that I did. There was this lady, and she was referred to me as a client of mine, but she was in a very interesting niche, and her niche dealt with grief and bereavement. Her target market were people who've lost their loved ones, specifically their mates or significant others. So it's like, okay, well, how the heck do I convey that message on Facebook without creating a bad user experience, but also really engaging people? So what I came up with was to tell a story about the author, about the person, and her story was she had a loved one that had committed suicide, right? So I wrote a story. I wrote a short story that said, this is one of the toughest things that I ever had to deal with in my life. When I lost my partner, I was in shock. I went through all of these different, emotions and feelings, and I didn't really know what I was going to do with my life. And it wasn't until I learned and I acquired these tools to help me deal with my grief was I able to escape the the grief and the depression and things that I was in. And I want to share these tools with you if you may be experiencing, if you've experienced something similar, right?
Yeah.
So that message really resonated with that target market because of the targeting that we were doing. And it was amazing the response we got because people were very supportive of her. Like, I totally understand. I can relate. I went through something like that too. Like, it really engaged people and brought them into the funnel. And we got, those are some of the cheapest leads and best click-through rates that we got. But it's because I understand psychology and emotion and how to connect with people on a deeper level, to go beyond the problem, but to talk to their symptom, that we're able to do that. And you can do that in any market, right? Because you want to connect with people, because at the end of the day, you're just not running an ad and just putting it out there. These are people that you're talking to. So you always have to be aware of that.
How does mobile change your advertising, if at all? Does everything apply on both desktop versus mobile as we're getting more?
No, I mean, it's definitely different in terms of how you market. But we design all of our sales processes so that everything is responsive all the way throughout. But then also the way we structure and set up our ads as well. Like, we segment. When we launch our advertising campaigns, we actually segment our placements at the campaign level initially. Okay, so I'll have a campaign exclusively for desktop newsfeed. I'll have a campaign exclusively for mobile newsfeed. I'll have a campaign exclusively for IG audience network. I'll have a campaign exclusively for right-hand side. So we segment all of those placements, and then we'll run the campaign and just evaluate it based on the data. We make all data-driven decisions, right? So based on the performance of the ads for that placement, we'll either keep it or we'll kill it. But what I found, depending on the marketing medium that you're using, so if you're using a webinar, it's much better to have someone consume a webinar on desktop than it is to do so on mobile, right? So we try to force that and push the issue especially if they are coming on a mobile device, even with a message on the thank you page, hey, this webinar is best consumed on desktop. Check your email to and go and watch this on your desktop. But there are some instances too where if you're running on mobile, long form sales letters still work really well on mobile too, because a lot of people don't want to consume video. on mobile, right? So it's better to actually to take that video sales letter and actually just have that as a sales letter where they can scroll, read, and purchase as well. So it just depends on the medium that you're using to convey your sales message.
Do you think someone who's starting a new campaign should worry about segmenting that, or should they just put up a simple ad and just target their audience regarding it?
Just keep it simple. What I would do is I would launch a campaign. I do think you should be cognizant of your placements though, and I would just do newsfeed desktop and newsfeed mobile only, and you don't have to separate.
Okay.
You keep them in the same. You keep them in the same thing, but just don't let Facebook run everything. Now there are some instances where I will select all placements, but that's generally when I'm going and running retargeting campaigns. To people that's already engaged with my initial content and ad, because now I want them to see me everywhere they go.
Yeah. All right. Before we switch gears, I want to make sure that we had a chance to give our listeners. I know we have a lot of authors on the line, and also authors who of course have some sort of consulting or keynote speaking or coaching at the end. So a very simple funnel right now. If someone want to get off of this podcast and they're like, you know what, all right, I've been doing the organic thing for too long, I'm ready to put a little bit of money into advertising. What advice would you give them for a simple funnel of opt in, show the book, they buy the book or they don't, and then getting them to hire them for coaching, consulting, say $1,000 sub price point?
So I would do free plus shipping. I mean, if you have an actual book that you've written, give the book away. Okay. Now, a lot of people, when you say, I'm not going to give my book away, I'm not going to make any money. Well, understand that the book is what we call a loss leader in the marketing world. You're not going to get rich off of your book. That's not the plan. The plan is to get the book out there into the marketplace so people can consume the content and then make your money on the back end. So do a free plus shipping where you literally give the book away, just ask people to pay the shipping costs. And what you can do is once they actually make the purchase for the free book, then you can take them through an upsell sequence to try to recoup your advertising dollars to get the break even, right? Because if you can acquire book sales for free, now you have customers that you can upsell on the back end. And one of the things that I would do is that I would bonus them into a training, right? So whether they took the upsell or not, on a thank you page, I'll say, congratulations, your free book is on the way. Because you made the investment, we actually have a training that's going to help you accelerate and get the results of whatever the book is promising. Go ahead, get registered for this training. You don't want to miss it. If you really want this to work for you and get the results, you'll be on this training. Register for this training. And I would I'll put them in a follow-up sequence through that to have them register for the training. I may even incorporate SMS and some voicemail, because if they purchase, you should have all their contact information as well.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really, really simple. Really simple, but I hope you guys are listening can hear how that can very easily take a book customer and get them that much closer to hiring you for your coaching, consulting, or speaking. So awesome, man. I know this probably been like drinking from a fire hose for a lot of our audience, but tons of value, tons of information. What do you recommend people do? Do you have a specific book or training for understanding that psychology a little bit better? Because I know that's something that we never are done learning about. Like, we can always get better with understanding that. So
check this out. So I'm at my desk right now, right? And then these are books that I have. These are the 4 marketing books that I have on my desk at all times, and because I use them as references as time.
Nice.
So this
you don't just read them, put them back on the shelf.
No. So this is the first one, Breakthrough Advertising by Eugene Schwartz. If you can get this book, get it. It's a very expensive book on Amazon, but it's totally worth it. This is like the #1 marketing book. Is going to really help you understand the psychology of the marketplace. So like this is huge. All right.
If you can't find it on Amazon, isn't there a PDF?
Yes, it might be a PDF. You can download
pages.
For understanding. So this book right here, Cash Advertising. This is a
Yep.
great book
Got that one too.
to give you just some basic fundamentals in terms of basic marketing principle based on millions and millions of dollars of test data that you can so it's backed up. Like this is like marketing 101. Like it says 100 secrets of ad age psychology. All right. So this is awesome.
So for those that are listening, we've got Breakthrough Advertising by Eugene Schwartz, then Cash Advertising by Eric Whitman.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And then if you're struggling with if you're actually writing an ad and you're trying to figure out how to open it, things like this, this is also a great book. Words That Sell.
Words That Sell.
Yeah. I use this as a reference as well to just to come up with openers, one-liners, especially if I'm having writer's block at times. And then this one here by the one and only Michael Masterson, Great Leap.
Man.
Yeah,
I have so many highlights and tabs in that book. It's unbelievable. That is a great book.
So these are literally, these sit on my desk and I refer to them as needed. So though, if you just got these books right here, just these books alone, like you're good. Like
and use them and don't read them and put them away and think that you just absorbed all the information. No. I love that. Keep it. I'm going to move them off of my shelf now. I'm going to keep them right next to my desk.
It's great, man. Especially when you're kind of in that mode and you're like trying to figure some stuff out. Like I'll just pop it open and I'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, let me try that. So yeah, it's good. It's good for that.
Good stuff, man. All right. Were there any questions? Was there something that I should have asked you that I didn't?
I don't know, bro.
Or that you wish that I didn't?
It's your podcast, man. I think I will say this, that I think that it's important that it's good to consume information. It's good to learn. I'm an avid reader of audiobooks, and I'll get the Kindle, but I like to consume books. But with that said, the implementation of the things that you learn, okay, is super important. And here's the thing: you don't have to take it all and implement it all. Take the key things away that you feel as though you directly applies to you and that you can utilize and that will have an impact on you, and then take action on those things. So so my biggest thing is having a structured plan of action. Have a plan, work the plan, and get it done. A lot of times when you hear a lot of stuff that we've been sharing, like it seems very overwhelming, and it is a lot of different things. It's a lot of moving parts, but you don't have to try to implement it all at once. You can actually take, one thing that I've shared or one thing that you've learned, and then just implement that one thing, okay, until you actually start to get results with it, okay? And what will happen is if you just work that way, you will start to create a compound effect where you will start to see things. You will start to see things grow and things change. But don't get paralysis of analysis and consume the information without implementing at least one thing from it.
That's good. And then before I let you go, I know obviously you are also a father, new young family like myself. Yeah. Tell me what it means to you to be an entrepreneur, to be working your freedom. Why do this instead of the grind of a 9-to-5 or work? I mean, the skills that you have could get you very well paid in in many corporations out there. Why have you gone down this path for the last 12 years instead of?
So, so for me, I don't follow orders well. I don't like people telling me what to do. I've always been like that all my life.
Were you in the service?
Yes, I was.
All right. That must have been tough.
Yeah, it didn't work out. So it didn't work out at all. And that was a core problem. So that's I've always been a free thinker. Like I taken advice, and as I gotten older and I'm matured, I mean, I do hear people. I listen to people. But ultimately I make my own decisions. So I would much rather work 80 hours a week for myself than 40 hours for someone else and have full control over my time and what I do. I'm dependent upon me for my success. I determine how successful I want to be, not and not some corporation or some job. And don't get me wrong, like I don't knock anyone that works a job. You got to do what you got to do to take care of your family, feed yourself, keep yourself, clothed and sheltered. But no, at the end of the day, that job, they're in business to make money. Okay. And there's no loyalty there, especially when you're talking about big corporations. There's no loyalty there. There's no such thing as job security. I think in this country, we've been indoctrinated with the ideal of job security, and it's false. In my mind, a job is the most insecure place you can be, because at any given moment, they can let you go or they can replace you. Then what? What's your backup plan? You got to go get another job. So for me, I know I've developed a certain skill set that I know that I can go out and do something to provide for my family. And, and especially with the fact that I have children now, it's even that much more important that not only that I attain those financial goals, but also that my children see that. I want them to know and learn, entrepreneurship, and actually see, okay, daddy works for himself. He does these things, and then also help them develop skill sets so that way that they're never dependent upon anyone to eat. So, my job as a father and entrepreneur is to provide them with the skill sets and help them develop very specific things that they can do, that they can always provide for themselves and never be dependent upon anyone. Now, if they want to go into the marketplace and get a job, they can do so by choice, but it would be for a very specific reason, whether it be to learn another skill set, knowing that ultimately that they're going to go and run their own business. So for me, this is all I know. This is what I've done all my adult life, and I enjoy it. I've done very well for myself, financially, more so than I would have ever been able to do if I just worked a job. I don't have a college degree. I went to college, didn't work out for me, and I'm not against higher education. I think it's important, especially in specific fields, right? But if I were just to go in the workplace, as I am now, okay, I might get a $50,000 a year job, but as an entrepreneur, like I know, like that's not real money.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So I just have a different paradigm in terms of how I look at things. And one of the books that really helped shift that, and it happened at a young age. I mean, I was introduced to entrepreneurship when I was 18 years old, and there were two books, Think and Grow Rich and Rich Dad Poor Dad. And that book really shifted my thoughts in terms of how I looked at the workplace. And I knew from that point on that I always have to have a business. If nothing else, even just for tax purposes, the United States of America is designed for entrepreneurship. The tax laws are written for business owners. So just for that alone, even if you have a job, you should at least have a side business set up so that way you can take advantage of some of the tax benefits that come along with being a business owner and an entrepreneur.
Awesome. I couldn't agree with you more, of course. 2 seconds or 2 minutes on Bitcoin. I saw that you were recently with some people talking Bitcoin.
Oh yeah.
I know that's a whole other podcast, but as a free thinker, as someone who plays outside the box and takes things into their own hands, I've asked a few of our guests to just give me your input. Since it's so new, I'd love to look back at these episodes.
I love it because I actually, before we got on our podcast, I was just talking to my buddy, Crypto Colin, like literally, cause he's actually, he's real deep into it. But, here's the way I look at it. I understand how the financial system works. And when you study and you understand the financial system, when you understand inflation and deflation, and that And really what that is, inflation is theft. Any way you look at it. If for anyone who doesn't really understand what I'm talking about, go research inflation. A lot of people don't understand that our monetary system is controlled by a non-government entity that has the ability to raise and control interest rates. Just the sheer fact that the highest interest rate that a bank will pay you right now, right, if you put your money in a savings account, is going to be like 1.5% annually. If you look at the average inflation rate for 2017, it's 2.1%. So if you just got money sitting in the bank, you're actually losing money due to inflation every single year. Now, here's where it really gets interesting. Once you understand how banks work and you understand a fractional reserve system, every time you deposit money in the bank, if I put $10 in the bank can then turn around and lend $100 on a $10 deposit. I put $1,000, they can lend $10,000. I put $10,000, they can lend $100,000. So the system is designed for them to make way bigger returns. They're paying you 1% annually. They're probably making 20% monthly, okay, on your income. So when you understand that, and then you look at cryptocurrency, specifically Bitcoin, it's a decentralized currency. It's not controlled by any government entity. It is truly a free market, okay? It's a free market, and it can't be controlled and manipulated. And that's why I think regulators are scared of it, and they're going crazy trying to figure it out. And I think long term is definitely the way of the future. I think there will be a time where they will try to put a stop to it, but again, it's decentralized, and it's not going anywhere. So I'm an avid believer in crypto. I've invested in crypto. I invested in Bitcoin and some other alternative coins, although that's speculative. But I don't see it going away. I only see it increasing in value over time. And the reality is that it's not like a fiat currency where we can print more and more of it. You look at Zimbabwe, they actually had billion-dollar bills, like literally billion-dollar bills due to hyperinflation that occurred.
Whereas only buy some bread or something.
Right, $1 billion to go buy bread. Like that's crazy. Like that's just like that's absolutely insane. So when you understand, Bitcoin, and you understand blockchain, the technology behind Bitcoin, like it's going to transform the way that we do business. There's not going to be any need for centralized clearinghouses such as banks. There's not going to be any need for a lot of the middlemen that are in place right now, because everything's going to be 100% transparent on the blockchain, and it's going to have multiple applications outside of just a currency. I'm talking about everything from real estate to insurance, like just about anything you can think of. It'll be done on the blockchain. So I think right now what we're witnessing is it's like the internet boom all over. It's like the internet 3.0. It's totally being reinvented on the blockchain. So I'm excited
obviously
about it.
another positive vote for cryptocurrency. Specifically, are you just dipping your toe in? Do you just have like some disposable income or some long-term investments that you're playing with? Are you accepting Bitcoin yet as a form of payment in your business? Which I'm thinking about getting that.
I'm all in on it. I'm
so
not.
Someone wants to pay you for your services.
Yeah, man. Give me some Bitcoin. Right. I'll take it. Heck yeah, it can pay me in Bitcoin. I take Bitcoin. No, I'm all in. I'm a believer. I mean, again, I have a technical background, so I understand it from a technical standpoint, but I also understand it from a fundamental socioeconomic standpoint. And I think it is a liberator for the people from an economic standpoint. So I'm really excited about it.
Awesome. Well, look, man, I want to be respectful of your time, guys. I hope that you have taken some notes on this podcast and gotten the nuggets here. Sam has obviously had a lot of experience in this place after spending, 10, 15 million online and putting in all those hours over the last 10, 12 years. And another example of someone who's, our age, young family, taking things into his own hands, doing it successfully. This isn't just hype and hoopla. These people like us really exist. And freedom is really out there for those who are considering growing their small businesses higher, or maybe taking that leap out of the corporate world. So Sam, I really, really, really appreciate you, man. I know we're always meeting up with each other at events and never get too much time in between. So I'm glad we had this excuse to get together and catch up. And I really appreciate you, brother.
My pleasure, man. And everyone that's out there, hope you enjoy it. Hope you got some good stuff, and catch you online.
Yeah. Tell us how they can find you if they want to follow
So
any
you can
trainings.
actually head over to hightickettraffic.com. I actually have a nice little giveaway there for you called the High Ticket Avatar Method. It's going to really help you dial in your avatar and show you how to leverage the power of Facebook to identify your target market using a strategy that will really help you pinpoint exactly who you want to go after. So hightickettraffic.com, or you can always find me at sambell.us as well.
Awesome. Yeah, we talked a lot about marketing, but what we didn't specifically, Sam specializes in selling, not just selling online, but selling, high dollar amounts online. So if you have a $5,000, $10,000 consulting, coaching, speaking gigs, he is the expert in that space. So check him out, guys. Again, this has been another episode of the Middleton Methods podcast. We will see you next week, guys. Take care.